Buckle up, everybody. This is going to be a fun one. Welcome back to the Breakfast Leadership Show. I've got Malisa Hepner online. Melissa, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I am awesome. Awesome. I've got my emergency because I'm getting over a cold, but I'm like,
Oh, I
I
feel
don't
you.
want that back again. So,
Mm-mm.
if people that listen to the show is like, what's wrong with his voice? It's like, it's nasally. It's not a new accent that I'm practicing. This is still me. I want to sound like I do, but not. So, why don't you share a little bit about you, and then we're gonna jump into this fun conversation.
All right. I'm a therapist in Oklahoma. I I seem to talk to the same kind of people over and over, but really I accept everyone. And I am a podcast host of Emotionally Unavailable. I also have a small little membership group called the Luminari, where we're just, learning and finding our light and sharing it with others. And I'm just on a mission to change the world, starting with my own.
And that's the greatest place to start is yourself, because too often we see challenges and things that people are facing in this world. And we know we talked quite a bit in the pre-show about that, where there's just a lot of people going through a lot of shit, and that's been the case for years. It's or
Yeah.
some people could argue forever, but the last I'm gonna say the last decade for sure, and of course the last 5 years in particular have been really challenging, and it just seems like it's punch after punch after punch after punch, and with all kinds of different things that are going on in the world, not only from a political standpoint, but from an economic standpoint, from a um, issues with weather patterns and catastrophes and plane crashes and all of these things. It's one of those things where from people that consume too much news, and I tell people,
Mm-hmm.
shut that stuff off, man.
Yeah.
Like, figure out a way to get the information you need, but don't get too entrenched into it, because it will suck the joy right out of you, no matter how good of a day you're having. Couple stories, and then all that work is done. It's like, okay, I've done this. I've worked out. I hit all my goals. My Apple Watch is happy, and all of a sudden,
God, yes, yes.
it's
That
like,
Fitness
yes,
app checked all the boxes.
yeah,
Yep.
I just went to the restaurant and I just powered down a 3,000 calorie meal. Gone. But at least you tried. But
Right,
it,
right.
it's one of those things that challenge. But you know, you're seeing it, in the work that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's been really having a rough go of it. So, is there anything in particular that really jumps out at you? I know there's many things, but what seems to be, if there's a common denominator in all of it, what do you think it is?
Well, I think that the people I'm talking to right now, what I'm hearing is how can I use my voice and be an activist for some of the things that are happening while also maintaining peace in my own spirit? And because I'm very vocal about the fact that I am up even until things got really crazy in 2025. I had cut weight, like I was a true crime girly, right? Like I was all up in that true crime. I'm resisting the Gabby Petito documentary every minute of every day right now because I know it's not good for my spirit. And when I went through like a little manifesting cycle, and I was like, we cannot consume media that hurts our spirit like that. And I have noticed that since I've really gotten a handle on my nervous system and it's really regulated, I feel what happens when I consume things that aren't good for me. So I'm like, let's not do that. But I think that the hard part is like when people come to me for guidance and I'm like, I actually hadn't heard that story, or I saw that headline and I can't give my energy to that right now. Really atrocious things are happening. And I would love to address all of it all the time and be there for everyone who's having a crisis over whichever part of it. But the truth is, all of us only have so much capacity to take in that stuff. So, two things are true about that. One is you're going to have to pick one part of the many things that are occurring in our world to be an activist for. Like you can't know every last thing and be a functioning human being. So like whichever part speaks to your spirit the most, that's the part that you're, I hate to use this word, but I can't think of another one, allowed to consume to a certain degree. And then the other stuff, like you have to place boundaries around your heart, because we can love people and we can care about people and we can even give and help. But that doesn't mean that we have to consume every ounce of media around it, talk about it, make it our breakfast conversation. Like you have to pick a lane, just one or two of those things. And then the second part of that is to understand that if you want to be a good activist for anyone outside of you, you have to be the best advocate for the person inside of you. And that everything that you do to help anyone comes from inside of you. So if you haven't built that part of you up, what good are you going to be to anyone? If you're running down and you're getting defeated day after day because of the work that you're doing out in the world, well, we got to build up your inner world.
And that's so important. The people that I see all the time that are burned out, they're still trying to help and give people, but they're so depleted, they can't do anything, and what they're giving isn't really that good. It's like
Right.
you gotta take care of yourself first, and sometimes people think, well, that's being selfish. Yeah, you need to be. You have to make sure
Yes.
you are the best version of you, because then when you do choose to serve and you pick those couple lanes to be an advocate for, as you said, then you're going to be much better at it. They're going to get a better version of
Yeah.
you, and you're going to be more fulfilled by the work that you're doing because you're going to have the clarity around it. You're not going to be taking up, basically table scraps to try to feed a meal. It's like, no,
Mhm.
it's you got to be your full self. And too often we get depleted. And I love how you mentioned this, and I feel the same way, where, I'm really, really careful about the news that I consume. And, I'll slip and I'll turn something on, I'll look at a headline, and then I go down that rabbit hole, and I can feel it. I can feel if it's something that's exciting, then I feel the excitement, the energy. If it's
Mhm.
something that is not joy filled, then it's like I can feel my shoulders tense up, maybe
My
some,
back. Yes,
yeah, tighten, yeah,
immediately.
yeah. You feel it right away, and I think when you become more self-aware, which unfortunately so many people are not,
Mhm.
once you become more self-aware, you can catch yourself. Don't try to say, I'm just not going to do it. It's like, okay, it's like I'm not going to eat any more chocolate. Well,
Right.
okay, you go into work, and it's like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory showed up, and there's chocolate everything in there. It's like, yeah, I'm not.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like it's gonna be there. Don't beat yourself up if you have a piece of chocolate. Just recognize, okay, I said I'm gonna stop. I'm having this one. You catch yourself, and then you go, all right, that's it. And it's just constant. And like people that will be doom scrolling, or they'll have negative thoughts about work, and they're like, I got to quit thinking about work so much. Well, when it's like telling your brain, don't do this, your brain's going to
Yep.
do it. Your brain's going to do it. So you might as well welcome it, saying, hi, how are you? Good to see you. I don't want to
Yep.
deal with you right now, but I really appreciate you stopping by. And then you change,
Mhm.
and whatever works for people, but that's one of the things that works for me. It's like, why am I thinking about this right now?
Getting curious. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you know what? Resistance is like the number one thing to keep you stuck in any pattern. Resistance of the boo, no. And then like what goes hand in hand with the resistance is you trying to white knuckle yourself through this life, relying on the finite amount of discipline and control and motivation that we are given as humans on a daily basis. Like I always say, I used to burn through my finite amount of discipline before my kids even left the house, because I always made a commitment, like send them off with love. Like this is the one thing I can do right. Like no matter what, this is the thing I can do right. So I did. I start their day all cheerful and whatever. But by the time they would leave the house, like that was it. No one else was going to get a nice version of me, because that was it. And I didn't have the tools to figure out why I was being a psycho in the first place, like to everybody else. But that's how this works. Like the more you resist, the more you're like, oh, I will use discipline, self-control, and motivation. Those aren't tools. Those are feelings and a little bit of hormone in the morning. Like that's all that is. Like you don't get very much control with any of those things, but you do when you get yourself a really good toolbox full of all kinds of tools to help you work through the why any of that's happening. And I love that you said that you get curious about why it's coming up in the first place. Because when I made that shift, everything changed because I realized, first of all, not everything has to be overanalyzed and thought about to death. You can just go, oh, my brain is capable of thinking of anything. So that's probably what just happened. But then there's times that you do have to say, it's kind of weird that that's my reaction to that. I wonder why, instead of just leaning into every little thought and feeling we have.
Yeah, it's a lot of times a thought will come to mind. I'm like, where did that come from? And usually I know. I can trace it back
Mm-hmm.
and say, okay, I saw this. There's a connection to this, and okay, that makes sense. But sometimes it's like, why in the world am I thinking about that right now? And it could be something as simple as just a scent or just a color that you see or anything. It could be really simplistic, or it can be, a situation where it reminds you of a situation or a conversation or who knows what. The key of it all is just to recognize it and go, okay, it's here. How do I want to deal with this? And
Mm-hmm.
do I want to ruminate on it? No, don't. Just, usually just park it and say, okay, we'll deal with that later. It's like when you're having trouble
Yeah.
sleeping and you're tossing and turning. It's like if you're thinking about something, write it down on a piece of paper, get it out of your brain, get it onto a piece of paper, and you can say, I'm going to deal with that tomorrow. And then,
Yeah.
it tells your brain, we got this. We're going to do this tomorrow. It's a trick that, I learned many, many years ago. Thankfully, I don't have to do it too often, but if before I go to bed, is like, okay, is there anything on my mind right now that I need to address? And if there is,
Right.
I'll write it down. Like, I'll deal with it tomorrow because sleep is a priority to me. We need it to repair the damage we do to ourselves on a daily basis. So
Sleep
get a
is
good
my priority too. Yep. Number one. You want your life to change your sleep schedule. Like
yep.
that's the first step right there. Because I'm a Gemini and pretty chaotic. And so my natural rhythm really is more of a night owl. But years ago I was like, that's not working for me, clearly. Like I'm staying up until like 4 a.m., getting up at 7. That's so weird that half of my life is chaotic now. Like I couldn't think, I couldn't regulate, I couldn't feel. So yeah, I had to change my whole sleep thing. And I'm getting much better about a running to-do list because I just noticed that tension in my shoulders and back if I have too much circulating up here. Like I need to do this and I haven't written it down. So there's a nonstop worry that I'm going to forget. Well, I'll just go ahead and put it in my little electronic organizer or write it down on a piece of paper. Usually, just the act of writing makes me remember stuff. But like getting into a rhythm of how to stay scheduled, that way I'm not really laying in bed at night, but it is such a good tool to write it down. If like I do, because man, I'll tell you, that's when you remember anything you forgot. You lay your head down, oh no. So like then I'll write it down. But yes, I love that tool.
Sometimes it's like me. It's like if I don't write it down, it's like somebody walks up to me with the Men in Black pen and goes, "Boom," and I'm like, "Who am I?
Me
Where am
too.
I?" Yeah, and I think there were people that used to work for me. I think they hit their Men in Black pen every morning. I'm like, did you forget how to do your job again?
Uh-huh.
It's like, what's going on? And it's like something's going on because you shouldn't forget this. This is fairly simplistic. It's like, do I need to get a paint by numbers thing for you? What do I need to
Yeah,
do for you to remember this?
exactly.
Where's the block here? What is it? Let's work through this so we can figure out what's causing you to forget this. But no, I say that tongue in cheek, but no, I have done something similar to that before. It's like
Oh yeah.
because it got to the point where it's like there's something deeper here. I don't think you're intentionally trying to forget how to do this. So something's
Right.
amiss. What is it? And then unpack it, then we find it and all of that. One of the things that I think is so important for people is to just recognize how to be present and also, quite frankly, how to navigate this world no matter what's happening. So, what are some tips you help people with that?
A good morning routine, like just setting yourself up with some really good easy systems that are not going to be in direct conflict with who you are as a person. So for instance, I have been wanting to have stretching as part of my morning routine forever, but in my mind I wasn't good enough if my stretching routine wasn't like 30 minutes to an hour, like them yogis I was seeing, But as I was like really building some emotional hygiene, I do EFT tapping in the morning, which I cannot recommend enough. And then I found a yoga by Adrienne video for 5 minutes, and it doesn't feel like 5 minutes, but the benefits that I feel after doing that are amazing. Maybe that's not going to work for you, but something EFT tapping. I did have one client that was like, I can't do that. And I was like, well, you don't have to do it that fast. Like you don't have to say all that. You don't have to do all that, just some on those pressure points. However, modify anything to you. But stretching's good for everyone. But if it's not good for your spirit, don't do it. But just whatever you can do first thing in the morning to start the foundation of the type of day that you want to have. Because when you realize that only you get to control how you experience your day, your life, it is powerful. And the freedom that comes with that is unmatched. Because when I started to say, I don't get control over that part, but the part I do get to control is how I feel in any given moment. And I will get into how I want to feel. I have a happy place. I think everybody needs a happy place. And my happy place is picturing myself at sunset, but not like when the sun's all the way down, just like when it's starting to come down, and like my arms out wide and I'm smiling. That's my happy place. And it's going to evoke a smile and a feeling of peace every single time I close my eyes and I get into that energy. You have to find your happy place, get into that energy whenever you're wanting it. But it's hard to do that when you forget. And you're going to forget if you're not building habits around living the life that you want to live. So if you can start with simple things in the morning, 1 minute EFT tapping, a 5 minute stretch, or whatever you want to do, a meditation that you listen to, whatever. And then I have clients and people in my membership do a check-in in the afternoon, and like how's my body feeling, what do I need, learn how to identify how you feel physically, emotionally, and what you need in that moment. And then you've got 2 times a day where you're 100% present in your body, focused on living the life that you want to live. Then that way you understand nothing around you can really affect within you unless you give it that power. But so much of that really does lean back on cultivating self-love, which is a journey for everyone. And whether it's affirmations that you want to do for yourself, which you should, or listening to guided meditations that just tell you how great you are, whatever it is, you got to reprogram that subconscious and get it to believe wholeheartedly that you are worthy of love and belonging exactly how you are in any given moment.
I love the check-ins. It's so important, and it's part of the work that I do with people when they're trying to figure out how to design their workloads. It's like, okay, I've got all this work to do. I'm like, okay, that's yes, you get to work. It's a mind shifting. Instead of saying I
Mm-hmm.
have to work, you say I get to work. Change of one word, but it shifts things. So you basically figure out, okay, check in every hour and basically, what's my energy level right now? How am I
Mm-hmm.
feeling and all that? Because what I found, and this is something that I discovered myself through some work with some others, is that there are certain times of the day that I am better to work on certain aspects of my work than
Mm-hmm.
others. And what I do is I know that typically the mornings tend to be more productive. The afternoons are a little bit more relaxed, have conversations, tidy up some things and all of that kind of stuff. Lighter, not as much analytical work, just maybe physical type of work and
Mm-hmm.
tactile stuff. So I recognize that in me and other people or others, like you said a moment ago. You used to be a night owl. So really productive at night. I'm sure you were crushing it and doing all kinds of things at night because that's where your energy was.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people, don't try to be a morning person if you're not.
Well, Tony Robbins and all those people who talk about getting up at 4 a.m. and all of that, that's great if that's who you are naturally, but you don't have to
Mm,
be any of those things. And just not fighting kind of natural rhythms, again, resistance keeps you stuck. You know what I mean? Like the whole big rock philosophy. I hate it because for myself, who used to battle all of those natural energetic cycles, um, I'd be like, okay, what's my big rock? The thing I don't want to do at all today, right? So, yeah, now I'm not going to do anything because I'm nonstop trying to make myself do the big rock versus what I've learned to do, which is to say, okay, I don't want to do that right now. So let me do something on the list that feels like I can accomplish it or is fun to do, something that lights me up. And then I'm going to go hit the big rock because I'm going to have all the energy in the world for it because I'm going to be lit up from the things that I chose to do. I just quit resisting all those natural energetic cycles.
And I think that's what's really important too is, we've heard, the big rock and, eat the frog first. I mean, all these things, I completely understand where they're coming from on it. But I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes it's like, okay, tomorrow morning I'm going to tackle that. Okay. Well, you don't know what tomorrow morning is going to feel like. You don't know how it's going to
Mm-hmm.
present until you show up. You set up and you're like, okay. And there are mornings, where I'm like, okay, here's all the things that I get to do. This is my list. Okay, what do I want to tackle? And I'll look at it. And of course, when you work for somebody else, you may not have the same amount of flexibility on this. But if you talk with your boss, as long as you're getting everything done and on time, I don't think they care what order you
Mm-hmm.
do them in. So it's the same thing if you're an entrepreneur or any walk of life where you say, okay, these are all the things I'm going to do. All right, I've got a handful of apps that I'm testing, for example. Okay, all right, I need to actually start playing with them and see how they work. It's like, well, which ones do I want to start with? And look, like, it's like, you know what? I'm going to pick one. I'm going to count to seven. I'm going to go down the folder and I'm going to say number seven, and I'm going to pick it. Okay, that doesn't mean I have to do that one. To
Mm-hmm.
give myself the flexibility and go, I need to draw another card, please. But sometimes I'm like, all right, I'll do that one, or I'll start looking down the list and one will jump out. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to even go down to seven. That one seems to be resonating with me right now. It's building momentum, like you said. You get things done, and then you're pumped. And you're like, okay, now what? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
now I'm flowing. Okay, let's do this. And then all of a sudden you get through six or seven things and you're like, wow, that I feel energized after you get them all done. And it was like, okay, let's not burn out. Let's and this is something that I do too is I'll stop after a while and I'll go, okay, I got through all those things. That's awesome. Why? Why is it awesome? Well, this, and this. Okay. How did you get all those things done? Are there any lessons? How did you approach it? What were you doing that created this environment for you to accomplish all those things in the time that it took you to do them? You look for basically life hacks, or maybe there's an approach of how I did it. It could be as simple as what I had for breakfast. It could be
Mm-hmm.
time of day. It could be the weather outside. It could be what you did yesterday. There's so many different ingredients that can impact how you do things. And the more self-aware you become, then the more aware you go, okay, I can create that condition again. Let's see if I do that and see how it works. And all of a sudden you were able to recreate the scene and you're doing different work and you still have, similar accomplishments. You're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I think I just figured out the secret recipe here. And then you just tweak it and analyze it, understanding that there may be days, where you're like, I don't feel like doing any more of it. I'm crushing it, but I'm all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
I'm sinking a little bit. Okay, well don't sink.
Right. Yeah. Shut it off. Like, tune in. What do you need? Like, you need a break? I mean, because now that I follow my natural energetic cycles, oftentimes I want to keep going because I'm in that flow and I'm like, wait, wait, wait. We don't want to do too much because then that's how you reach burnout. Like, I'll force myself to take the break and go like play a game or whatever because none of it really bothers me the way it used to overwhelm me to look at a to-do list. I mean, I would say the only universal truth in terms of getting things done is you got to have a list like of your tasks, whether it's electronic or written down. Other than that, the big rock, the frog, your cheese, all of it is just different strategies offered to you. I'm saying take the path of least resistance. Like, well, you can sit and shame yourself all day about how much you don't like doing such and such. Or you can just go, I don't want to do that, even though it's the thing I have to get done today. I promise you, if you do the things that light you up as part of your job or whatever it is you're doing, you'll get to that thing that you're supposed to get done. Like every time, because your energy level comes up, you get a little hit of dopamine, you're ready to go. You're ready every time. And I mean, I've only been practicing in that way for probably 6 months. And my God, big difference. My whole life is better because I'm not fighting myself anymore.
Yeah, you're matching the energy with what you feel like doing and what comes to you. And quite frankly, you're accomplishing those things in less time than you would if
Much
you were.
less.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, how do you accomplish more? You accomplish more by spending less time on it. And that can really boggle the brain a little bit. It's like, what do you mean? It's like you find efficiencies, your energy levels there, so you're not you know, stuck in mud trying to get something done. You're actually getting it.
Yes.
It's flowing. It's like, okay, here's this, here's this. The computer for some reason is acting faster now. Everything's working fine. It generates this. You get it all designed. Everything's ready to go. And it's like, okay, cool. Next. And then, it's like you do a couple of them, like, okay, I'm really running with it. But like you said,
Yeah.
you catch yourself and you go, okay, I need to take a break because
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to crash and burn. It's better for you to take a break when you're just like, I still want to do it, and or even taking a day off. It's
Yeah.
like completely taking a day off. It's like I'm not going to work at all. Your body and your brain's going, but I want to. If you can get it from the I need to I
Yep.
want to, that's a game changer because then you're like I want to do this. It can wait. I don't need to do it, but I really want to do it right now. And you're like it's your day off. Don't do it. But I want
Right.
to
But
do it. And
you've been training your brain to receive dopamine from tasks that you quote unquote have to do or whatever for work. But your brain's like, hey, I love what I'm doing. Let's do more of that. And so, like, teaching it to turn off so that you can go have joy in other areas. What a great life. Right. I mean,
yeah,
isn't that what we're all after?
yeah. And we can design that. And that's, the work that you do and guiding people to do that. That's why you're such an amazing soul and somebody that's figuring it out for themselves. And I think that's one of the things that is so awesome about, what you do and who you are is you're not presenting yourself as this perfection thing. I'm going to coach you how to do this. No, you're like, look, folks, I'm feeling like this and this and this, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm struggling, or I'm really crushing it today. Here, have some of my energy. I've got so much of it. I'm gonna give you some. Be like, oh, be
Absolutely.
like Oprah handing out cars. You get a car. You get a car. Here, have some of this. Here, I got more than I need right now. Here, take some.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And then
but
there's other days I'm Oscar the Grouch, like, baby, I got nothing to give. I'm so sorry.
Exactly, garbage lid over the head. Bye.
Exactly. We are going back down.
Yeah, so awesome stuff, Melissa. So where can people find out more about you and this awesome work you're doing?
Probably the easiest place is Instagram at melissa.hepner, and you will show them the weird spelling of my name, I'm sure. And then I have a website, empoweredwithmelissahepner.org.
Yeah, I'll have all that in the show notes. So Melissa, thank you for being you. The world needs more people that are truly authentic in themselves. So really enjoyed our conversation today. Thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you.